Good evening, everyone. This is John Craig, and we're back. We're back for another edition of For Ezra here on Walking in Spirit and Truth. It's really good to be with you, and on this wonderful, chilly day in the Panhandle of Texas, and it's really great to be here. So, yeah, I got down to 0 last night, and that's cold. But when I was the coldest, when the coldest was? I was coldest when it was like 27 degrees out this evening, like late this afternoon. I'm like, man, I'm really cold. All right, that's enough of that. I know you guys are cold in other parts of the country as well, and some of you guys have really cold stuff going on, but we're going to endure, aren't we? All right, so who am I, and what are we doing here? So Sandi is my wife, and she and I both pastor Life of Worship here in Amarillo, Texas. So if you ever are in the area and you're needing to find a Torah study and a service to join together with, then hey, come by and visit us here at Life of Worship Ministries. And you can go to our website. I need to put that and scroll that across the screen so everybody can see it. You can go to our website and you get our information, get our address and all of that fun stuff. So there it is. And but we have our Shabbat services on, of course, Shabbat, yeah, but at 12 noon on Shabbat, and you can join us right here on the Life of Worship Ministries channel and be part of the chat. We've got a lot of people that check in there and have a great time. Also, that's at 12 noon. We usually go for a couple hours for that. And then at 3 o'clock on Shabbat, we have our encounter service where we have a time of praise, worship ministry, and a message. And I'm telling you, the messages that we've been doing have been just taken us to a new level. And I'm really excited because it's not only are they taking us to a new level, but we are living it. We're living it out on the priestly, following the priestly ways and all of those details. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Well, what are you talking about? Well, you need to go to Life of Worship Ministries YouTube channel and figure it out. I'm gonna go there real quick so that y'all can see this. And so this is our Life of Worship YouTube channel. Okay. And on our YouTube channel, this is where you catch up on everything that you might have missed during the last several days. And here's your key, the key to navigating this YouTube channel. Home is going to give you a whole bunch of different videos, multiple playlists are right here that you can look through, and you can scroll through them and see all of that fun stuff. And you can go to the past live streams. You can see all the videos that we've put on this channel since we had to restart it. And so that's one way to look at it. Or you can come over here to the top, and every one of these words is highlights as you go scroll across. And on the playlist, this is where you can find all the different playlists. So what do we have? Zadok and the Dead Sea Scrolls and how it affects us. There is so much information. You don't want to just jump into the middle of it. Go to the very beginning. We're here. Oops, I didn't want to really go there. Here on this playlist, we have, let's get that out of the way. It's an operator error. Yeah, it's just me. Under Walking in Spirit and Truth. Where did I go? I jumped off the whole thing. All right, I'm trying to show you real quick so we can get into For Ezra, because that's where we're going tonight. All right, Zadok, view full playlist, playlist. That's where you go. And so you can see that there's 9 messages posted here, and it starts all the way back with Walking in Spirit and Truth when Eddie Chumney and I sat down and talked a little bit about the following 4 messages that he did at Life of Worship. Actually, it's 3 messages. Part 2 is split up into 2 messages. Then Pastor Sandi and I, mostly Pastor Sandi, started doing a line-by-line approach to all these different things, taking what he said, expounding upon it, and leading us through this whole process to where we are, what we've done in this last Shabbat. So if you've missed that, I want to encourage you to go there. If you have enjoyed it, share it with others that but tell them they got to go back to the beginning, because every bit relies upon the first part, and Eddie's messages are very much part of this whole thing. So what else do we have on the playlist? I got to go back one. And on our playlist, if you've been missing the Walking in Spirit of Truth, view full playlist. I did it again. And so you can also look at it right here. Walking in Spirit and Truth, where you can go back and say, well, what are you doing on this 4 Ezra? Now that we're in the middle of it, I don't quite get it, but it's all timeless. So when you go into the Walking in Spirit and Truth View Full playlist, it'll take you all the way back when I started this series on 4 Ezra, where it says 4 Ezra Part 1, and you can just take it one session at a time. I need to name a few of those, and it'll bring it all the way up to 2 weeks ago, and the one from last week is still in the live. Like I missed last week, but I want to watch that one. It's not there in the list. Why? Because you need to go back over here to live. Go to live, and you'll find it there. I think Sandy was getting ready to put it in the list. And under live, you'll see under Walking in Spirit of Truth, 6 days ago, last week's message right there. Okay. For Ezra. I hope you guys have been enjoying it. It's been a really great study. I've been enjoying going through it, and there's just been so much to learn by it. It's been so eye-opening, because when I go through it, my mind just explodes about all these other scriptures where it all comes together and it all makes sense. And it's like, wow, Ezra was talking about that stuff. And he was talking about all these different things that we know that Yeshua talked about, that Paul talked about, that are tied into things that Moses said and the prophets, and it all connects together. And it's like Ezra is right in the middle of all this history, and it's very cohesive. So that brings us to where we are right now. And by the way, so where are we on Lamb Network? So we have Let Us Reason Together on Monday mornings. We have the Monday morning prayer room that we do. We have Walking in Spirit of Truth on Tuesdays. And then we also have Thursdays where we have Planet Chapter, where Pastor Sandy and Mark have the show together. So those are where we are here on Lamb Network. And also then Mark will rebroadcast the messages and on Lamb Network, they're usually delayed by a few weeks. So he will rebroadcast those messages. So if you missed them all, you just come right here to our YouTube channel. Okay. I want to say thank you so much to everyone that has given over the last several weeks. And we are still working on getting those bills paid, but we haven't been able to do it without you and your support. And so thank you for praying. Thank you for your generosity. We are looking at, I think we just have our water bill to take care of. And we've got our big quarterly insurance payment that it's done at the end of the month. And then we're starting to build up to take care of next month's bills. So thank you so much for being part of Life of Worship in that way, and being so generous with your giving. We love you guys, and we love that we can stay connected with you one way or another. Some we stay connected with online and by text and by chats and by other ways, but we want to stay connected with you however we can. All right. Whew. All right, here we go. We're going to pick it up from where we left last week. Didn't you like last week where it was talking about this peaceable multitude that were gathered after this big gathering, which I call the big Armageddon moment. Whether it's the big Armageddon moment or not, there was this after Yeshua rises up out of the sea, and out of his mouth comes this blast. We know that out of his, and it's this fiery blast. We know that out of his mouth is a two-edged sword. We know that it's by his word that people are consumed that don't follow him. And so we see him take out these armies that were all fighting against themselves. And then he comes on the scene. They're like, whoa, well, let's just join together and we'll get back to fighting ourselves later. Let's fight this guy together. And so the whole world comes with their armies all around Yeshua. And he just like, yeah, and he opens his mouth, and they're done. I mean, they're just taken down. And then out of, the smoke clears and all that, and and Ezra sees this other peaceable multitude that are of the 10 tribes, which are carried away prisoners out of their own land and into that were taken into Assyria, and then they out to the four corners of the world. So that's where we were left off last week, and it talked about 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 who these people were and how they were identified. And when they decided not to go back into the land is because, they weren't keeping the Torah, but they would go to a land where they would continue to keep the Torah. And we know that in the lands, that what have we seen with the spread of the faith in Yeshua? It's been in all these distant lands all around the world where the 10 tribes went. And so this message of the kingdom went everywhere. I really believe when the people heard about Yeshua during that, when in the second chapter, from the second chapter of Acts, and out from Jerusalem and Samaria into the uttermost parts of the earth, and when those missionary journeys started out right there, they connected with the lost tribes of Israel who embraced the message of Yeshua, restored in their faith in the Torah, and began to walk that out. And we see the evidences throughout the migration patterns throughout the world, and their practices that they did. There's a friend of ours that is from India, and he said there are practices that are of his culture that are Torah based, and he didn't realize it until he had joined us for a while and started studying the Torah with us. He's like, my people, they do this and this and this, and it's the remnants. This is the following of Torah that's been scattered out there in the wilderness. So it comes out of Ezra 13 where we've been at, and so now we have this conclusion in verse 57 of chapter 13 before we go into chapter 14, where it says, "Then went I forth into the field, giving praise and thanks greatly unto El Elyon, because of his wonders which he did in time, and because he governs the same, and such things as fall in their seasons. And there sat I 3 days." I just really think he comes out of this time, this last set of dreams, visions, and he's just like utterly amazed, just utterly amazed. It's like, because it's like he's almost speechless, except for praise that's exceedingly abundant out of his mouth, because he says, "I went into the field giving praise and thanks greatly." I mean, so it's like, who cares about any other word except that which magnifies the Most High? And so that, I mean, tell you, he must have been flying on cloud 9, so to speak. I mean, he's just up there, and because he governs the same. He's just talking about Yahweh, El Elyon. He governs the same. Can you imagine what he's contemplating? He governs the same from the beginning, with Adam, and all the way to Noah, and to Shem and Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and Moses and all it's like he governs the same. He's just been so consistent. If you want to compare that, because think about this, Ezra would have known about the other gods of the different nations. I mean, after all, he's coming out of the exile of Babylon. He knows about the gods of these other nations, and he's just contemplating. And here's the God, the creator of the universe, El Elyon, the God of gods, and he's the same, just the same. Wow. Anchor yourself into that. I'm just like, I'm anchored in that. And because he governs the same, and such things as fall in their seasons. And there I sat 3 days. So, and it says he sat for 3 days. Well, he's told to go into the field for 3 days, for another 3 days. And so I think he's I think for 3 days, as big as that last vision was, and if you missed it, go back to last week and listen to it, or last 2 weeks. And think about how he would be sitting there for 3 days, that the fullness of his consciousness is just simply dwelling on this amazing just download that he had received. Wow. Okay. All right. So let's go into this is chapter 14, verse 1 of 4 Ezra. So if you've got your King James version with the Apocrypha, you can go to 2 Esdras. If you got the Sefer version, I'm using the Sefer version right there. Yeah, right there. And you can see, and you can see that over, it's called Ezra Ravi 4 Ezra. All right. Whatever. Okay. It's just not my second language yet. It's not my first language either. Okay, and it came to pass upon the 3rd day. So he's been sitting there 30 days, and now it's the 3rd day. And I sat under an oak, and behold, when you see the behold, look out. It's like, remember in the Paleo Hebrew, it's that man with his hands raised up. You know, it's the hey, behold. You know, something's about to be revealed. This is big. Okay, so there you go. So behold, there came a voice. And where did the voice come out of? It came out of a bush that was over against me. And said Ezra, and Ezra and said, Ezra. Didn't say Ezra once, but Ezra twice. Now I want us to go over, because this is like, you know, we're in the book of Shemot, in the book of Exodus during the Torah portions. And what did we get on Mount Horeb in chapter 3 of Exodus, and where Moses was pasturing the flocks of Yitro, his father-in-law. And verse 2, and the angel of Yahweh appeared to him in a blazing fire from the midst of a bush. So remember fire. We're going to get to fire later on. We're going to get to fire. And so appeared to him in a blazing fire from the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush was burning with fire, yet the bush was not consumed. So Moses said, I must turn aside now and see this marvelous sight. Why is this bush not burned up? When Yahweh saw that he turned aside to look, Elohim called to him from the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, here am I. What did Yah say to Ezra? And a voice came out of the bush. How do we know? What do we know? Is that it says the angel of Yahweh appeared in the bush, and then for Moses, and then it says a voice came out of the bush. Could we say that that's the same person, so to speak, person, entity, superior being, the Most High, El Elyon, the angel of Yahweh? Could we say that Ezra is having the same type of encounter that Moses had? Ezra. And I said, here I am, Adonai, just like Moses said. Now we got some parallels going on here. So going on, it says, he says, Ezra, here I am, Adonai, and I stood upon my feet. And he said unto me, in the bush, I did manifestly reveal myself unto Moses. And I talked with him when my people served in Mitzrayim. And I talked to him when my people were down in Egypt. Or how about this? I talked to him when my people were in Texas, or in Florida, or Ohio, or wherever Bob is, or Utah, or anybody else that's listening, in whatever state you're in, here in the United States of America, here in Canada, here, wherever. And he says, I spoke, as you know, I'm going to talk to you like I talked to Moses when my people were down in Egypt. And I'm talking to you when my people are scattered to the four corners of the earth. And I sent him and led my people out of Egypt and brought him to the mount, where I held him by me a long season, and told him many wondrous things, and showed him the secrets of the times and the end. Now, and commanded him, saying, these words shall you declare, and these shall you hide. So All right, this gives us a clue of Moses. I love it. I love it because, okay, so what was this long season that Moses did when he was up on the mountain? Because wasn't he up there on the mountain for 40 days? And the people were like, well, we don't know what happened to this character, this dude, this person, this guy that led us out of Egypt, left us at this mountain in the middle of the wilderness, and he's gone. He disappeared. I mean, surely he didn't take a whole bunch of sheep and goat with him and just went herding elsewhere. I mean, he wouldn't have left us, would he? But no, it says that he was with Yahweh. And it says, and told him many wondrous things and showed him the secrets of the times and the end. And then he gives this other thing, this command. And he says, I'm going to show you words that you're going to declare to them. But these other words, you're going to hide from them. In other words, it's not going to be revealed. It's not going to be revealed. It's going to be shut up. It's going to be left for a later time. Well, how much, when we look at the story of Moses and the layout of the Torah, how much did he reveal? I mean, if we're talking about the foundations of our faith, that's quite a download that was allowed to be revealed. But do we get a hint of maybe the stuff that would be hidden when we get to the end of Deuteronomy? Like in Deuteronomy 29, 30, 31, 32. And there are some things that are laid out in those chapters that are not laid out in any other chapter of all of the Torah. Okay, so, but I love the fact that here Ezra's having this conversation, and it looks a lot like this conversation that Moses had, and because it's going to reveal to us more, because it's like Ezra is being brought along a similar path and journey as Moses was. Except others get to be part of this story. Like Moses was up on the mountain alone. And why was he up on the mountain alone? Well, I think that he's up on the mountain alone because the people rejected the voice of Yah. So Moses went up there and had to get the download and come back, and made lots of trips up and back again, and kind of like the Hobbit. No, not like the Hobbit, but there and back again. But anyway, he's up there on this journey, and he says, and now I say unto you that you lay up in your heart the signs that I have showed, and the dreams that you have seen, and the interpretations that you have heard. For you shall be taken away from all, and from henceforth you shall remain with my son, with which such as be like you until the times be ended. Wow. Okay, Pastor John, you were so choppy when you read that, and I didn't catch that. So let me just say that again. For you shall be taken away from all, and from henceforth you shall remain with my son, and with such as be like you until the times be ended. So I'm just going to say this, is that Yahweh's speaking to him, and he's saying specifically a couple different things. One, I'm going to reveal some things to you, but I've already revealed some things to you. We've gone through those in the last several weeks, haven't we? And reminded him about the things that he was seeing, the dreams that he had, the interpretations that go with it. And then this whole thing, well, you'll be taken away from all. Are we talking about like an Enoch experience? Where he's just taken off the earth and was no more? Or is it something else? Well, in my opinion, I think he's just saying at a certain point in time, when your life comes to the end, I mean, you'll be taken away from all that the people and all that sort of stuff. And then you're going to remain with my son. So in other words, absent from the body is present with the Lord type of thing. And such as be like you until the times be ended. So in other words, you're going to live here on this earth until the time comes that you're taken away. And when you're taken away, you're going to be in the presence of my son, and until the times are ended. That's what it says, right? And what we just said for the world. Now it goes on and it gives this very interesting thing. And I've really had to contemplate on this. I really had to put some thought into it. And and the sad thing is that in Ezra, Ezra was written in Aramaic, in the Syriac language, but it's in Aramaic. And so to be able to find like an edition that's a parallel edition that gives you the language with Strong's concordance numbers and to help us understand what we're reading even more so in the English, I don't have that. I'm not privy to those academic documents, but I would sure like to be able to have those, but I need them dumbed down with Strong's numbers on them to help me understand. But nevertheless, he says, but coming on here, it says, verse 10, for the world has lost its youth and the times began to wax old. Excuse me. So I think part of what he's saying is that by this time of Ezra, now remember, Ezra is 400 years before the time of Messiah. And so 400 years before the time of Messiah, Bob, that's what I understand. Yeah, he wrote in here, Ezra was written in Aramaic in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And that's what I was researching over this past week, as I was trying to find it, and everything took me back to Syriac, the Syriac original language, which would have been Aramaic. And I just couldn't get beyond that. I couldn't get. I think probably have to get some academic textbooks, and there's nothing on the interwebs, as Viva Fry might say, the interwebs. Okay, so for the world is divided into, it says, and the times began to wax old. So he's 400 years before Messiah, and he's being told by Yahweh that the world is already waxing old. Well, if he's 400 years before the time of Messiah, and Messiah was, like 2,000 years ago or more, close to 2,000 years ago when Messiah died, and then you think 400 years before that. So can we say like 2,400 years ago? That's when Ezra was. Well, if the world was already waxing old then, it's really ancient now. We're living on this. Okay, I'm not going to go there. All right, so for the world is divided, and it says the world is divided into 12 parts, and 10 parts of it are gone already, and half of a 10th part. And there remains that which is after the half of the 10th part. Now, therefore, set your house in order. And so, okay, and I have some thoughts on this. So what's he talking about? The world's divided in 10 parts and a half a 10th part, and the remaining half of the 10th part. And so there's two ways that I'm looking at it. And one way is just a thought. It may be completely out there and not related, but I'm going to blame it on a translation issue. Okay. I want the translation. I want the words. I want all those words so I can look at them. Okay. So I'm thinking, well, what did we read in the last chapter? It was talking about the peaceable multitude. Those are the 10 tribes. And so if the world is divided into 12 parts, and 10 parts of it are gone already. So what I'm thinking is he talking about that the nation of Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel, 10 are already gone. In other words, they're already out of the land. They've already been scattered. And then, but remember, there's the two southern tribes, specifically Yehuda, Judah, and Benjamin. But there was part of Levi, or the Levites, were in the southern kingdom, and part of them were in the northern kingdom. So there's that half part. So for the world has lost its youth, and the times begin to wax old. For the world is divided into 12 parts, and the 10 parts of it are gone already, and half of a 10th part. And there remains that which is after the half of the 10th part. So I think he's looking at that. What really has mattered to everything is that Israel is supposed to be the center of the world, remember? And Israel is the land, but it's the people, Israel, the sons of Jacob, the sons of Israel. And so the 10th part is gone. It's gone. It's been scattered among the nations, divided among the nations. And then the other part would be Yehuda and Benjamin, and part of the Levites, of Levi, and they were returning to the land from their captivity, because during the time of Ezra, that is after they were allowed to return from Babylon and return to the land. And so we have the Yahudim, we have the Jews, we have the Jewish people, the southern kingdom moving back into the land, and that would be the other part. And that seems to be consistent with me. Now, so just as like we in America, we're so United States centric, everything revolves around the United States. That's how we think. And perhaps there's this whole concept in the Hebraic mindset that everything revolves around what Yah is doing among the tribes of Israel. Anyway, so that's what I'm thinking about, how this world is divided into 12 parts. It's not like 12, the 10 kingdoms of the book of Revelation, and how they give their crowns to the one little horn or whatever. I don't think it's talking about that. I'm thinking it's just simply in terms of where the people are and where the people are no longer. I mean, you could always say, well, the world was divided into 12 geographic areas, or there's these 10 ages and a half an age, and the other 2 ages that make up the 12, or I mean, you could come up with a whole bunch of other type of scenarios. But I think this dividing the world in regards to Jacob, then 12 tribes of Jacob, makes more sense to me. Let me know what you think in the chat about that. That's in Ezra chapter 14, for Ezra chapter 14, and that was in verse 11 and 12. Now, therefore, put your house in order. So now he's getting some instructions. So he's just like, he's still talking from the bush. We kind of went on that side trail. He's still talking from the bush. All right? Yeah, it's like he's having a conversation. I think it's more of a conversation like you and I are having right now than like Moses, who is probably like, this bush is talking to me. And why are you talking to me? Why did you pull me aside? Why is this thing burn? No disrespect to Moses. I would have been really caught off guard too. My jaw would have not only just fallen to the ground, it probably would have gotten lost. And I probably would have chased a rabbit trail and missed the bush. I don't know. Okay, so now therefore, set your house in order and reprove your people. Comfort such of them as be in trouble. So he's saying, okay, get your house in order. Why? He says, because, you're going to be taken away from it all, and you're going to be with my son. So you got more in your life to do, but one of the things you need to do in your life is get your house in order. Get your house in order. Haven't we heard that before? Get your house in order. And then it says, reprove your people. Reprove your people. Then he says, comfort such of them as be in trouble. So if there's some people that aren't, they're not doing so well, they're mourning, they have loss in their life or something like that, comfort them. They're having just rough times. And then it says, and now renounce corruption. Okay, so this is what he's being told to do. He said, I want you to get your house in order, but I also want you to reprove the people. I want you to comfort them and I want you to get them to renounce corruption. I want you to, they got to deal with that. They got to deal with the corruption issues. Remember when Pastor Sandy was talking about it was like almost like a mob, not like a mob, a great crowd of people, but like a cartel, like control over the temple during the time of Yeshua, and how this family, this mob like family had controlled the temple, and why Yeshua overturned the money tables because of the corruption. This is how they stole the money from the people during the feast seasons, and then they used that money to bribe and to control the politics, to control the Romans, they had such power, and it was full of corruption. And which I had made the comment is, boy, that sure seems like a reason why the second temple would need to be destroyed, because the center of the power was so corrupt that the temple and Jerusalem would need to be destroyed in order to break up that cartel, that very, very corrupt family that was in charge of it all. So going on, let go. So he's continuing to be getting these instructions to tell the people, let go from your mortal thoughts, cast away the burdens of man, put off now the weak nature, and set aside the thoughts that are most heavy unto you, and haste you to flee from these times. Excuse me. For you yet greater evils than those which you have seen happen shall be done hereafter. So he's just said, look, you think it's bad now. I mean, think about what Nehemiah had to deal with. Well, Ezra was right there side by side, a contemporary of Nehemiah, and all of the corruption that they had to deal with and to overcome in order just to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, let alone get the temple rebuilt. So it reminded me of some things. There was some scripture that I think really goes along with that over in the Brit Hadashah. And one of those scriptures is from Hebrews chapter 10, verse 12, and where the author of the book of Hebrews says this. And I just want to, as we go into these verses, now I'm not sure who the author of the Hebrews was, and I don't know if it was ever meant for us to really ever know who the author was. But nevertheless, some of these other scriptures are what Paul wrote, and you can see that from Paul's writing that he was connected after he had that Damascus Road experience, and that he became connected with the Yahad, with the Yahad. Remember what he's talked about, the Yahad, or the people of the way. Now, in a derogatory sense, Josephus called them the Essenes because he was, of course, out of the family of the Pharisees, and so he didn't really like the people called Yahad and the people of the way. So he in his historical writings was kind of downplayed them, but when you see Paul's writing, you can really see that same thematic expression that come out of the Dead Sea Scrolls that were kept in their library. And so we know that Paul was with them, but we'll get to that here in a second. And then, so in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1, therefore, since we have so great a cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let us also lay aside every encumbrance and the sin which so easily entangles us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, fixing our eyes on Yeshua, the author and perfecter of faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of Yah. For consider him who has endured such hostility by sinners against himself, so that you may not grow weary and lose heart. And so that's what I'm kind of looking at here. Reprove your people, comfort them that are in trouble, and renounce corruption, let go of their mortal thoughts, cast away the burdens of man, put off the now weak nature, set aside the thoughts that are most heavy unto you, and haste to flee from these times. And it's going to get more evils coming. So We got to get our hearts prepared even before more evil comes upon us. So let's look at another verse. This is Paul talking in Romans 13:12. The night is almost gone. So just think, the darkest part of the night, the most wicked part, the most evil, when evil is darkest among us. And the night is almost gone and the day is at hand. Let us therefore lay aside the deeds of darkness and put on the armor of light. Joe, we got the armor in there tonight. Okay, put on the armor of light. Let us behave properly as in the day, not in carousing and drunkenness, not in sexual promiscuity and sensuality, not in strife and jealousy, but put on Adonai Yeshua, the Messiah, and make no provision for the flesh in regards to lusts. So that's another part. So I think there's a parallel. Yeah, the sons of light, the way. And then Ephesians 4, 1 and 2. So let's jump over there. And when I was looking at my cross references and all these verses that connect together, you know what I found? There's so many verses that say the same thing in the writings of Paul. And when you see that theme that goes on and on and on, and then you see what Ezra wrote, and this is a book that was hidden away with the Dead Sea Scrolls and preserved for us. I mean, they had this in the Apocrypha. It was something that was just never canonized, so to speak, because the Pharisees didn't really canonize it, so we didn't really necessarily see it in the Masoretic text, but it was still available, and that's why it's even in the King James Version with the Apocrypha. But Ephesians chapter 4, verses 1 and 2, I therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, entreat you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling with which you have been called, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, showing forbearance to one another in love. Be diligent to preserve the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. So there's just some things I was just thinking about when I was given all those different characteristics that he was supposed to tell the people. And I'm thinking, wow, Paul got the same message. And he was 400 years later, and because he lived with the people, the same Zadokite community, the priestly community of the descendants of Zadok, the descendants of Phinehas, the descendants of Eleazar, the descendants of Aaron, and so the descendant of Levi. And so there's this connection. And then it goes on in verse 17. Not only is that there's going to be greater evils that are going to happen after even Ezra's time, it's verse 17, for look how much the world shall be weaker through age. So as time passes, it says the world shall be weaker. And so I don't think it's talking about terra firma. I mean, do you? Well, maybe because humanity, which is often metaphorically called the world, like, remember that song? We are the world. Okay, I'm not going to go there. That was one of those politically correct songs that just, one time was all I needed to hear it. That's all I had to say. Okay, moving right along. For look how much the world shall be weaker through age, so much the more shall evils increase upon them that dwell therein. So as it gets, humanity just gets weaker and weaker. Or shall we say darkness just continues to pound away at humanity to where we lose our humanity. For the time is fled far away, and falsehood is hard at hand. For now, this is so today, isn't it? For falsehood is hard at hand. For now, hasten the vision to come, which you have seen. And it says, for now, hasten the vision to come, which you have seen. And I don't know exactly what he's saying when he says hasten the vision, other than, hasten, like to speed up. the only connection that I can make with this is when the children of Israel were in bondage and slavery in Egypt, what did they do? They cried out. They cried out. And as they cried out, Yahweh heard their voice. And so there was this encounter at the bush, because that's where we started out tonight, an encounter at the bush with Moses in the past, Ezra here, and he's saying wickedness is going to get darker and darker and darker and harder, falsehood harder and harder upon us. And so how do you hasten it? We cry out more and more and more. Yeah. Behold, Adonai, I will go as you commanded me, and reprove the people which are present, and they shall be born, and reprove the people that are present. But they that shall be born afterward, who's going to admonish them? In other words, how are we going to keep the message going? I mean, I got the fire in me. I can do this right now. But when I'm not around, because you said I'm not going to be around, who's going to do it afterwards? And thus the world is set in darkness, and they that dwell therein are without light. For your Torah is burnt. Therefore no man knows the things that are done of you, or the work that shall begin. And this is where I love this prayer of Ezra. Maybe we should all pray this prayer of Ezra. And he says, but if I have found grace before you, send the Ruach HaKodesh, send the Holy Spirit, the set-apart Spirit unto me. And I shall write all that has been done in the world since the beginning, which were written in your Torah, that men may find your path, and that they which will live in the latter day may live. Isn't that like, I love that. It's like, oh, Father, if you'll just fill me with your Spirit, I'll make it recorded. Not only will I tell my people around me, but I'm going to leave a heritage of writings that they will have, that so that they that are in the latter days may also live. So I love that. And then Yahweh answers, and it says, and he answered me saying, go your way, gather your people together, and saying to them that they seek you not for 40 days. Whoa. I think what Yahweh just said to Ezra is this. He said, I like that prayer. So I got a plan, and we're going to do something about that plan. So you need to go. You need to go to your people. And so you got to deliver the message to them. I mean, we were just talking about delivering the message. But he said, I want you to go to your people and say, I need 40 days. Don't come seek me out. Don't bother me. Leave me alone, because I'm going to get a download. That reminds me of Moses too. Doesn't it remind you of Moses? Because Moses is, how many times did Moses go up and down the mountain leading up to the day of Shavuot? And then after the word of Yah comes, and then he goes up for 40 days. Well, there are several more trips up and down, but then he goes and he gets his download, because that's what we talked about, because he showed him, remember, he showed him the secrets of the times and the end. He showed him many wondrous things and showed him the secrets of the times and the end, and commanded him, these words shall you declare, and these shall you hide. And now Ezra, who's talking to the bush, he doesn't say it's burning, but he's talking to the bush, and he says, and the bush, Yahweh speaking to him. Yeah, I believe it's Yeshua, because it's the voice, the word made manifest, John chapter 1, verse 1, and the word that dwelt among them, and is speaking to him and says, I want you for 40 days. So I want you to, but before you do that, before those 40 days, he says, but look, prepare you many box trees and take with you. And he gives 5 guys. these 5 guys. I didn't look up their names to get the interpretation of their names. I'll do that for next time, because remember, whenever there's a names and the names mean something and there's a name order, then there's a specific message in their names. I bet you there's something. So there's Saria, Dabria, Shalom Yahu, Etan, and Asiel. And these 5, excuse me, and these 5 which are ready to write swiftly. So in other words, these are scribes. These are scribes, just like Ezra is a scribe, and he's a priest. And he said, and these 5 which are ready to write swiftly. In other words, these guys are at the top of their class, and you're going to get some downloads, and you're going to be speaking those downloads, and they're going to write. You're going to have 5 versions being written at the same time, so that when you, at the end of it all, you're going to go back through, compare notes, and then make the corrected edition. Whoa. 5, the number of grace. 5, the power to overcome. 5. Wow, here we go. Which are to write swiftly, and come hither, and I shall light a candle of understanding in your heart, which shall not be put out. All the things performed which you shall begin to write. And when you have done some things, shall you publish, and some things shall you show secretly to the wise. Tomorrow this hour shall you begin to write. So, yeah, so now he's got to go get the people. He's got to go get them all gathered up, and he's got to deliver the message. And what's he telling? He's saying, I'm going to give you stuff that you can share like Moses shared, and I'm going to give you stuff that only the wise will get to hear, because it's just not for everybody. Isn't that what Yeshua did? He said, when Yeshua spoke in plain language at the very beginning, and then he spoke only in parables, because it was only for only the wise would get the parable, so that they would understand. Because the ones that aren't there, then we're not going to sow our pearls to swine. Okay, that's so you got a day, and then you're going to begin to write. Well, your scribes will. And so he goes out and he gathers the people together, and he says, hear these words, O Israel. I love it. It's kind of like a Moses picture again. Israel, we gather here today to hear the voice of Yahweh. All right, go on. And our fathers at the beginning were strangers. And this is what he says, our fathers at the beginning, hear, O Israel, were strangers in Mitzrayim, from whence you were delivered, and received the Torah of life, which they kept not, which you also have transgressed after them. Then was the land, then even the land of Zion departed among you by lot. But your fathers and you yourselves have done unrighteousness, have not kept the ways of Elyon commanded you. And for as much as he is a righteous judge, he took from you in time the thing which he had given you. So, yeah. All right. So here he's saying, look, okay, all right, guys, let's shape up, ship out, right? Shape up or ship out. And now and now are you here, and your brother among you? You're in the place that you're at because you did the things you did. Okay. And therefore, if so be that you shall subdue your own understanding and reform your hearts, and you shall be kept alive. And after death, you shall obtain mercy. Well, I like that too. Man, time is going too fast. I don't want to just stop right here. And so he's just basically saying, you've got time to repent. Right now, you have time to repent, but there's a day coming that you won't have the time. And after death, if you repent, you're going to find mercy. But if you don't, it's not going to be good. And then after death shall the judgment come, when we shall live again, and then shall the names of the righteous be manifest, and the works of the wicked shall be declared. Let no man therefore come unto me now, nor seek after me these 40 days. So he delivered the message, and he said, all right, now we'll talk after 40 days. But right now, I'm going to go get the download. The download's coming. And Oh, time is ticking. Okay, so here we go. So I took the 5 men he commanded me and went into the field and remained there. And the next day, behold, a voice, there's a voice, called me saying, Ezra, open your mouth. I wanted to go to my cross references and all these different things, but maybe we'll hit the cross references next time when we do the names. All right. Okay, moving right on. And the next day, behold, a voice called me saying, Ezra, open your mouth and drink that I give you to drink. Drink that I give you to drink. Then I opened my mouth, and behold, he reached me a full cup, which was full, as it were, with water. But the color of it was like fire. Oh, and I took it and drank. And when I had drunk of it, my heart uttered understanding, and wisdom grew up in my breast. For my ruach strengthened my memory, and my mouth was opened and shut no more. El Elyon gave understanding unto the 5 men. In other words, they got a download too after Ezra drank the fiery water. And they wrote the wonderful visions of the night that were told, which they knew not, and sat 40 days. And they wrote in the day, and at night they ate bread. As for me, I spoke in the day and held not my tongue at night. In 40 days, they wrote 204 sephers, 204 books, 204 scrolls. And it came to pass when the 40 days were filled that El Elyon spoke, saying, the first that you have written, publish openly, and the worthy and the unworthy may read it. But keep the 70 last, that you may deliver them only such as be those that are wise among you, among the people. For in them, in the spring of understanding, the fountain of wisdom, and the stream of knowledge. And I did so. Okay, so now we know who those are, the 70 are left for. And oh my goodness! And you know what? So we're gonna have to retouch that last bit next time around. And so yeah, well we're gonna do that. And then if we can, we're going to talk about the great star, Planet 7X in Ezra 15. Maybe it's there. I don't know. All right, there's a teaser. Hey, love you guys. We'll see you next time. Shalom, shalom.